Hello everyone and welcome to the grand finals of this content creator tournament. In this best of 5 showdown, it's going to be myself facing off against my son Herbert Walker for the ultimate strap here in Samurai Warriors tournament. So in the first match of this best of 5, it is going to be my Vampire Council led by Heinrich Kemmler facing off against the Foul Bray Herd, who shall be led by Malagor the Dark Omen. Now, as far as my build goes, it's going to be pretty chaffy, but we do have a couple groups of Graveguard. So Graveguard and Sternsmen, a couple zombies, Skeleton Spears in the back, which are actually a really cost-effective option against Minotaurs and Chaos Spawn and things like that. And that is one of the options you do sometimes see. Oftentimes, Beastmen will either go for a double Giant build. Giants, of course, can be pretty good against Gooses. They can really fend off a Mortis Engine by kind of standing in the middle of the army and are pretty scary. So you see the double Giant, but some of the other builds you do see are basically really juiced up Minotaur rushes. So you can see Spawn, you can see Minotaurs, and having a couple groups of Skeleton Spears is so damn valuable in that situation. Now, looking at this army, you're probably wondering, how am I really going to be able to deal with what he has over here? He has a Cygor, he has 2 Giants, he has a lot of really big, powerful threats, but something I found in a multitude of matchups over Greenskins versus Beastmen, whether it be an Arachnarok Spider or a Giant, Banshees are insanely cost-effective. Now, as long as they don't have units that do direct magic damage, there are some matchups in which you just don't want to bring a Banshee. Magic damage is too pertinent, it's all over the place, and they're going to get wrecked. However, against Beastmen, they can bring magic damage, but it's pretty much going to be, as it pertains to single target magic damage, it's going to be Spirit Leech. So if they bring Spirit Leech, you can usually counterbalance out with Invocations, and the Banshees are just so damn good at taking out Giants. It's kind of a weird thing, but basically they're so durable, so sticky, they can tear out off the Ungors and the Gore Herds, and they just sit there, they endure, and they just shank the legs of the Giant until it goes down. It is so good. So double Banshee works. Double White King can work as well in this matchup. And the White Kings, of course, have Scab Scraith, which is a kind of a winds item they can use to blast through some of the chaff and the lightly armored infantry. But I still think Banshees are the better pick here. So 2 Banshees here. We have 2 Corpse Carts as well, 2 Graveguard in the front. Cryptors are also another really nice pick against bigger units and just blocking up Minotaur charges, Spawn charges. Yeah, they won't necessarily do the best in Fisticuffs, but they have high mass, decent damage output, and they do also imbue poison. So if you put the poison on the big target, the percentage the poison lowers on a thing like a Giant is really, really solid. And if you don't have the Cryptors, I've kind of found that Giants and Minotaurs and Spawn and some of these other big threats can push through your army. They can get on top of your Mortis Engine, but having the Cryptors is a really good pinning mechanic. So the Horrors pin things in place while the Banshees actually just do the shanking. On top of that, we do have Heinrich Kemmler. He's really cheap, and also Krell is quite good in this matchup, getting good old Krell with his anti-large and his armor piercing to chop through Minotaurs and Gorbals and things like that. I think is very, very cost effective. Now, last but not least, we do have a little bit of a mobile force. We have the Dire Pack as well as one group of Blood Knights. So once we can kind of clear out the chaff units, we can then pull in the Blood Knights to kill the Gorbals and to kill the Giants and Minotaurs and Spawn. They're pretty much good against like everything on the Beastmen roster, maybe with the exception of like, I don't know, Bestigors, and even then they're not really bad. So that's pretty much my whole roster here. And now for the forces of my son, Herbert Walker. Not actually my son, but certainly a great guy. He does have 2 Gorbals, 2 Giants, as well as the Eye of Moorsleep. So definitely going pretty hard in the anti-large. I feel like most Beastmen players really do expect the Terrorgeists and the Gooses up in the sky. And when I land with the Goose, if it gets trapped, you know, he can use Warp Gaze, he can charge with 2 Gorbals. So I really don't like to play into that. I like to go a little bit wider, bring an infantry-based army, and try and grind them out rather than really gooning with the Goose. That's just how I play Vampire Counts. So aside from that, 2 Giants, 2 Gorbals, Malagor the Dark Omen with Traitor Kin, as well as Vile Tide to bust up my infantry lines. A couple of groups of Ungor Spearman herds. And I could have sworn he had some Centaurs like hiding somewhere. Because in the game, the Centaurs did appear. Maybe they're in the far corner. No, they're back here, it looks like. So yeah, Centaurs and Throwing Axes are also a really good choice against big threats. So I'm talking about Gooses, Mortis Engines. If they're able to get that good Arc of Fire and just kind of sit and throw, they can do some serious damage. And the Blackhorns Ravagers. That's pretty much it. So this is game 1, guys, in this best of 5 grand finale showdown between myself and my son, Herbert Walker. Let the games begin. So the Cygor here, throwing some bows, definitely doing some pretty good damage against my Sternsmen. So I kind of was like, maybe I should just run these guys at the trees, but I basically realized that I might get to the tree line, but by the time I get there, I'm going to be super beat up anyways. So I decided to just go in open field and just kind of take it like a champ. So the Sternsmen here getting bouldered pretty bad, and this is a really, really good start for my son, Herbert Walker. Basically here, he's able to take pretty much half HP off my Sternsmen, which are an expensive unit. I think they cost, what, 1,100? It's like 500-600 gold worth of army value there, so very, very good stuff. In the meantime, my Fellbats are scouting up ahead, so I have the Fellbats just to run into the tree line and see what's going on, so I now know what his army composition looks like. On top of that, the Blood Knights as well as the Dire Pack are lurking in the trees. I wasn't sure if he was going to push forward here or do anything, so I was kind of laying a bit of an ambush, but I think he was very, very defensive here. And his build is super defensive. It has a Cygor, it has Gorbals, it has Giants. Not really a mobile Beastman army, really looking to just kind of a stick and sit. Not stick and move, stick and sit. So the bats are going to be flying overhead. Again, just scouting. I was thinking about going after the Eye of Moorsleep to try and shut down some of the firepower, but I figured keeping the Foul Bats for a little bit later would be better. Nice Vile Tide right there by my son. He's able to blast the Skeleton Spearman. Looks like he takes out about, wow, 21 models. Really not bad. Also doing some very good HP damage. So now the Frontline Engagement is about to be underway. The Banshee is going to be charging in with her Ethereal Shank. We do also have the Cryptors coming in, and the Banshees, or the Ungors, are not braced anymore because of the Banshee kind of breaking their brace. And now that the big giants are coming in, the Corpse Guard's going to get in as well, and we're basically just doing what shock damage we can before we send in our infantry. So what I really want to force is a big blob fight. The Mortis Engine will be very strong, and from there I can kind of block up the giants, I can get the good engagements, and hopefully prosper. Blood Knights are going to be pulling down. He did use the Warp Gaze on the Blood Knights, which I was a little bit shocked about. I didn't really, maybe he wanted to keep me from just bunker busting the Ungor Spearman right here, but nonetheless, yeah, I think he actually Warp Gazed me so he could throw the rocks at me, which isn't a bad idea. Over here on the flank, though, one of the giants does overextend a little bit, and the Dire Pack, of course, is anti-large, so I summon Krell behind the Mighty Giant, and the Dire Pack is going to be trying to nip in at the heels. I'm not sure. I could have sworn I gave him an attack order, but a little bit out of position, but Krell, nonetheless, is putting some damage on the Giant. He has at about 500 to 1,000 damage. Certainly not bad. So here in the center, the Gorbel gets a little bit ahead of himself, trapped in spears and Cryptors, so he's going to be taking some big damage. I do get a Banshee up on the high ground, send it in here to start shanking down the Cygor, but another really good Vile Tide right there, doing some good damage to my Skeleton Spears, but the Gorbel is taking a lot of damage there. Also, I see this engagement here, I see a Gorbel, I see a Giant kind of trapped here, I know I have Krell, and Krell is taking a huge beating from the Giant, but that's a good thing. I mean, that's what he's for. He's also put about, 1,500 HP damage on the Giant, which is great, and now the Blood Knights and the Cryptors commit to a relatively big Alpha Strike. So we have a Gorbel trapped here, we have a Giant trapped here, and the other Gorbel is kind of mucked up by Skeleton Spears and by Cryptors, not really able to get the engagements he wants. Up in the tree line, though, a little bit scary. One of my Banshees does get beaten on here by the Eye of Moorsleep, which actually does do magic damage, so I noticed that a little bit late. I was like, oh god, I better run! So I run away. Did get some damage on Malagor with an assassination attempt from the Banshee, but I do need to run from the Eye of Moorsleep. So basically, I'm just trying to peel away here. I pull in some Cryptors as well to block up Eye of Moorsleep and the Giant, trying to allow that Banshee to escape. As far as the balance of power goes, it's pretty even, and my son isn't really using a summon build. He's basically using a more kind of a grindy build with the Giants and things like that, so the balance of power is actually quite accurate as it pertains to the current state of the game. But Heinrich Kemmler just riding around on his horse, just kind of cackling, and I do see the Centaurs coming over here to cause some problems, and if those Throwing Axes are able to sit, throw out my Blood Knights, throw out my other valuable assets in my army, it could be a little bit scary. So here in a moment, Heinrich will be dropping a Zombie Summon here. The Zombie Summon, very, very good for tar pitting, but another nice Warp Gaze from my son Herbert Walker here, able to lock down the Blood Knights, and the Blood Knights are just getting shreked by the Throwing Axes. That is value city, to say the least. However, it's been good. Blood Knights are surrounding Gorbels. Both Gorbels are taking anti-large shots from the Blood Knights. We have a Banshee going after the Giant here, and you can see the Giant is actually starting to get really, really beat up. Now, the Frontline Engagement has gone well. As expected, the Ungors and other chaff units did break to the Mortis Engine, and the Mortis Engine has made its way into the forest, so it's killing all the other chaff units, which, once we can clear out the horde, get rid of the Ungors and the Gore Herds and things like that, we're going to be able to get a really cost-effective surround on the Cygor and the Giant, just with a ton of crappy units, which eventually should be able to shank them down. Remember, I do also have the support of a Corpse Cart. Corpse Cart will give melee attack and melee defense, and also will give some nice healing. So here we get the Giant isolated, like I said. We got rid of the chaff, the Banshees. Heinrich Kemmler's getting his Chaos Tombblade in there. We're getting a lot of attacks here on the Giant, which is going down rather quickly. Banshees, like I said, a very durable tool against Giants. I would highly recommend them. Over here, I did send my Hounds in to try and take out his Centaurs, but he did a really good job actually pulling back with his Gorbels and his Centaurs and was able to fend off my Hounds. But another Zombie Summon is basically going to be bogging these guys down. Now, I don't need to kill the Centaurs. I basically just need to screen so they're not able to help with the Mortis Engine and the Cryptors and make sure they can't get into those ideal firing positions. So this Giant's at 116, very, very low, and the Banshees are able to prison shank the Giant. Down it goes for the count. Another Vile Tide up on the higher ground by my son Herbert Walker is able to do some AoE damage against my chaff, but just like I said, the Cryptors are actually doing all this damage here. This Giant is getting worn down, it's poisoned, that lowers its weapon damage, pretty much a lot of its valuable stats actually. Skeleton Spears are also poking it, Mortis Engine. It is a very, very messy blob to try and deal with. So for the first time in the game, the bounce of power is in my favor here. Two Banshees are now going after the Eye of Moorsleep. A little bit scary because he does have magic damage. And again, I remember that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's the guy that really crumped me before. So we're going to be pulling back here. The Banshees are going to be trying to get an intercept here on the Gorbel. The Gorbel's going for blood, and he misses Heinrich Kemmler, which is great. Heinrich certainly has some moves like Jagger. Now we're going to be trying to take out this Gorbel, but it looks like Gorbel coming back after the other Eye of Moorsleep, or after the other Banshee, excuse me. And Eye of Moorsleep dropping bows, so now we've committed to another blob fight, which again, I have a Mortis Engine, I have double Banshees, I have a Zombie Summon back here that I can really send in to muck this up, and I was feeling pretty good about that situation. Now back to this engagement, the Giant just being dragged down. He is shaken, has about 1,500 HP, and here you can see that Malagor the Dark Omen is he's in dire straits for sure. Things are looking a little bit grim for him. The Banshee certainly can put some hurt on him as well. Zombie summons are able to come in, apply the rear charge penalty, which breaks off all the spear units, and now from here, I should be able to get the Banshees, Heinrich Kemmler, and of course the Mortis Engine if I do want to pull it in and really finish off this block. We do also have both Cryptors. The Cryptors are in really good shape. We have a Corpse Cart, we have a bunch of Skeleton Spearmen, we have some Sternsmen left, I think. I know we have some Graveguard. I think the regular ones. Yeah, Sternsmen actually were able to heal up with some Invocations and, of course, the Mortis Engine. So from here, it's mainly going to be cleanup. The Eye of Morsleep will put up a decent fight, but the Giants are both just so beat up. The other Giant, as a matter of fact, gets taken out by the Banshees, pushed back, and he's at 79 HP. And the Blood Knights, I was able to pull them back earlier, though they did get really heavily damaged. I pulled them back, I wait in the tree line, and the Knights of Red Keep going to be descending on this Giant here, just trying to make sure he doesn't come back. Granted, he only has 100 HP, but nonetheless, taking him out is going to be a really, really nice boon for us here. And down goes the Giant, felled in the forest of the Tower of Hoet. So from here, we have the Eye of Morsleep left. Malagor the Dark Omen is prison shanked by those two Banshees. Looks like he's terrified right now. I'm surprised he's not immune to psychology. It feels like he should be, but here's Eye of Morsleep, and that is going to be army losses, and that is going to be game one in the grand finals of this Content Creators Tournament between myself and Herbert Walker. Yeah, Herbert Walker might be a better name to call him in short, instead of saying my son every single time. But yeah, as far as the build goes, I feel like this is a matchup that is pretty good for the vampire counts. As far as his picks and bans go, I believe he picked Beastmen and he banned Tomb Kings, and I think the other one was like Empire or something like that. I can't quite remember. Now, the Beastmen do have a couple tough matchups for sure, and I think one of them is vampire counts. It is winnable for Beastmen. I've seen it won in my ECLs and grand finals and things like that, but I think it's one that is indeed pretty good for the vampire counts. The Banshees are really strong, the Cryptors are pretty effective, and if they decide to go with like Bestigors and harder infantry, they just get countered by Cryptors. Centaurs, I think screening out the Centaurs is pretty big here. They weren't able to really get good engagements. They got a couple of good volleys on the Blood Knights, which was a really nice play, but for the most part, the zombie summon, some of the other assets we had, were able to force those guys back, which I think was pretty essential. The Blood Knights did okay, but yeah, the double Banshees and Heinrich Kemmler and the Mortis Engine really were the MVPs in this game. So very well played to my son Herbert Walker. Guys, now we're going to be jumping on over to game two. And we're going to see if he can equalize the scoreboard or, yeah, how it'll go from there. All right, guys, we'll see you in just a second. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you guys in just a moment. All right, my friends, and now we're back with Game 2 in this Best of 5 showdown. It's going to be my Skaven facing off against his Warriors of Chaos, Ikit Claw versus Archaon, the Ever-Chosen. Man, if you had told me Archaon would be like a somewhat common pick in 2020, I would not have believed you a year ago. Now, as far as the build goes, it's going to be quad Rat Ogres. Rat Ogres are extremely good against Chaos. They can beat down the elite Chaos Infantry, the Marauders. Yeah, a little bit weak against Horsemen and Manticores, and of course a little bit squishy in many respects, but I think that Ogres, when you combine them with Skaven Slaves, become such a powerful tool. Even if they have like Chaos Knights thundering into your lines, the Rat Ogres with a little bit of a Clan Rat or Skaven Slave support can just do so good. Now for the rest of the build, it's going to be 4 Skaven Slaves in the front, 2 Clan Rats in the secondary, a Plague Furnace. So this is our caster. We do have Ikit Claw in the Doom Wheel just because it's a pretty damn good Doom Wheel. And of course, yeah, he just runs things over. And it's really, really good against Chaos Infantry. He does have the Brass Orb and Howling Warp Gale. So I really like this combo because you get the Mortis Engine effect in case they go super infantry heavy. And you also get the Howling Warp Gale on top of a very powerful Lord. So the Howling Warp Gale is basically to shut down Manticore spam. Manticores are very good at gooning Skaven Lords. You can see here, there's one Manticore here, there's one here. And if I had like Skrulk or anyone like that, basically what my son could do, or Herbert Walker, he could spam fireballs. He could spam fireballs all over Skrulk's face. Skrulk gets low. He comes in with a Manticore. He kills him. That's GG. So I really do think in matchups in which you're worried about being sniped, I think that Ikit Claw is probably the better choice because, or a Grace Huron de Bell. They're both really, really good. So we have Ikit Claw, we have a Plague Furnace with the 2 Rat Summons. In the back, we do have a bunch of Clan Rat Spears, Warp Grinders, the Ikit's Zap Zap Cannon to keep Archaon and other big threats honest, as well as Manticores. Ixcha's Triads here in the back, just a great unit. Even if like you're in a matchup in which you don't need anti-large, just being able to summon the clones as a distraction and a tactical piece is so damn good. We have the Poison Wind Mortars, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, the Mortars, I think, are one of those units as well. I didn't use them as much when they first came out, but as I've been playing more campaign with them and also integrating them into multiplayer matchups, they're just so damn good. So yeah, they just wreck everything. Cav units, skirmishers, infantry, you name it. Those things, they pound it for sure. That's my build. Now for my son Herbert Walker, he's got a huge Cav core, so Marauder Horsemen, a very good choice. And Horse Masters as well. But the Horse Masters and Horsemen, pretty good against Ogres, Hellpit Abominations, can certainly poke my large threats, and are also a backline harass tool. So he can dive them into my backline, get onto my gun pieces, and they can certainly clear off like Skaven weapon teams and things like that. On top of that, he does have a Hell Cannon, very cheeky deployment here. So basically, the Hell Cannon has a really good angle. It's a mortar, right? So it can shoot up and over terrain, whereas my Warp Lightning Cannon can't counter this. Now, normally this would be a free kill. I'd be pulling super far ahead, but based on his positioning, I'm not going to be able to get this. So Hell Cannon back here, Mirror Guard guarding it, Chaos Marauders until the sunset, it looks like. Another 3 groups of Marauder Horsemen. Man, he's got 6 in total. 2 Forsaken, I think we have a Demon Spew and a regular group of Forsaken somewhere, it looks like. I think there was 2. And Archaon Never Chosen. Basically, you bring Archaon just to spam fireballs at Skaven Lords and 2 Manticores up in the sky. It's a really good Chaos build for sure. Very, very nasty. So here, the Fireball is going to be coming in, like I said, going right after Ikit. I do see it coming, so I will be trying to juke it here. Hell Cannon in the meantime, doing some damage against Glen Rats. I'm trying to go back and forth, trying to take a side angle, but the Fireballs have a really good tracking mechanic, so he is able to get me. Now, if that was Skrulk, that would be a little bit more significant. I wouldn't have the armor, and of course, he's got less HP. So yeah, I'm really glad I brought Ikit Claw. I really do think he's a better pick against Chaos. Some Mortars are going to be shooting in now, and here some Skirmishers are coming on the far side, Marauder Horsemen. So I get some Skaven Slaves. I'm like, here, just have these, a sacrifice for the Horned Rat. They're all yours. Now the Mortars are going after the Chaos Marauders. You can see some pretty big damage coming in. Not a lot of models lost, but the aftershock of the Mortars are very, very powerful. And what I try and do with the Mortars is switch them every chance I get. So I switch to the other unit, really spread the love. Because again, the shock damage isn't really where you get the value. It's really from the overtime effect. So here comes the hit. It does make contact with the Marauders. And now I thought about sending in the Ixchos Triads to summon some clones and halt his advance. But it looks like my son Herbert Walker here is not going to be advancing. Rather, he's going to be taking a defensive posture. So in that case, I do pull back the Ixchos Triads. I thought about going in with Ikit Claw as well, and you can see the Warp Lightning Cannon is going to be going after Archaon, but unfortunately I do miss both those attacks, and Archaon is not going to be afflicted there, which would have been quite nice. Nonetheless, so Archaon is going to start juking. He is aware that he's being shot at, and my Plague Furnace here is going to be pushing up. I figure let's get some freebies. Let's go after some of these Chaos Marauders, use the Mortis Engine to drain them down, and just continue hammering their position here with the Mortars. So here comes the Mortars. Going to have a quick sip of water here real quick, guys. Ah, delicious H2O. It's what plants crave. Chaos Marauders getting pounded by another wave of mortars. You can see, again, no real model loss, but certainly taking a lot of HP damage. Up on the high ground, my son Herbert Walker being very patient with his horsemen. He does also have the Chaos Feral Manticores. It looks like they're now going to be pushing in, maybe thinking about pushing after my Lord, or maybe just pushing back the Plague Furnace. I think he was wanting to get aggressive with those. And here comes the Fireball. Fireball again going after Ikit Claw. This is a very common tactic. And again, if you had Skrulk, if you had anyone squishy, especially like Deathmaster, this could be very rough. Granted, Deathmaster does of course have the stock, so he wouldn't be able to see him terribly easily. And it looks like the Hell Cannon is in the back going after the Warp Grinders, and now the advance of Chaos is here. The earth trembles as all the horses ride. Marauder Horsemen coming up and around the flank. Probably going to be trying to harry and harass here in the back against my Ogres. So what I really need to do is make sure to use Skaven Slaves and my other chaff units to just kind of buffer against them. Force them to waste their ammunition against basically terrible units. In the meantime, Hell Cannon is at half ammo. So it looks like it does have 15 shots left on its overall volley counter there. So probably going to be going into my Warp Grinders, maybe some of these Clan Rat Spears. Not too many good targets. It is another common pick for Skaven to also bring Council Guard in this matchup, so I think that's why the Hell Cannon is a pretty justified pick for sure. But he's able to get some decent damage here into the Clan Rats. Poor little rat boys. Certainly not having a great time, but now we're advancing in the front. I'm going to be taking a bit of an aggressive posture. Marauders are pulling back, but the Ogres of whatever clan this is, we'll just say Clan Scryer because it is Ikit Claw, are going to be pushing in, going after these Marauders. We have the Mortis Engine, we have the Ixchos Triads. I felt pretty confident going here. I figured that my son had so many troops on the flank. He had troops back here, he had troops back here. I'm like, there's a lot of power for Chaos back here. Like, a lot of his army is working in the backfield. So let's push up, let's see if we can get that Mortis Engine. And even if Archaon does come in, I have Ogres, plus I do also have anti-large armor-piercing troops in the Ixchos Triads. So as far as the other frontline engagement goes, Skaven Slaves fighting against Marauders, a little bit of friendly fire, but that's the true Skaven way. And now in the back, things are getting a little bit crazy. The Horsemen are getting a good position, tons of throwing spears, going into my Ogres. Beautiful play right there, but I really just need to make sure I keep that Zap Cannon alive. So Ikit Claw is going to be pushing. I'm pulling back the Warp Grinder to stand on top of this in case he all-ins. And the Ogres are able to make some good contact here, so a little bit of a... But yeah, he definitely needs to pull those guys back for sure, because Ikit's going to get in there. There's going to be terror routes, but even still, I'm taking some pretty good damage on the Ogres. On the other side here, the Spears are able to push in with the Ogres, and the Marauder Horsemen just getting pounded there. I think the pressure up in the front here on the Hell Cannon was a little bit of a distraction from the backline play. And now you can see the Ogres are on top of this. We do have the Ixchos Triads as well, and some Skaven Slaves. And the Plague Furnace is coming. Should be rolling in here in a moment, dropping some summons, and taking out the Hell Cannon here is going to be really, really big. However, Archaon looking a little bit thirsty here. Maybe Archaon will go in after the Plague Priest, but no, it looks like he's going to go in and try and save his Hell Cannon crew going after the Rat Ogres. Now in the backfield, the Manticore did come in to try and goon out Ikit, but I did use the Howling Warp Gale in that bad boy, and now the Mortars have switched. They're taking those very loose shots here into the Marauder Horsemen, but look at that. Like, even against Skirmisher units, all it takes is one hit, and the amount of damage you get is so damn good. The Manticores, in the meantime, pushing in very aggressively, going after the Ogres, maybe trying to get a bit of a mass terror route. Granted, I do have a lot of stuff back here. I have Ikit, but some of the Forsaken, the dreaded Demon Spew are coming in. Ikit Claw rolling right through those guys, blasting them so hard that my game lags. And you can see they didn't lose any models, but it looks really, really, really dramatic there. But we are able to halt their advance and keep them from getting onto the Warp Lightning Cannon. Granted, he might be able to just path them through, and it looks like he is going to be getting pretty aggressive here and actually trying to get on top of the Warp Lightning Cannon. But for the most part, the Marauder Horsemen are being screened out by Clan Rats and by Skaven Slaves and by Rat Ogres. And some of the Manticores are rampaging into a horde of basically just chaff units, which is great for me. And here comes the Demon Spew, but they are locked down by the Warp Grinders. So not only are they snared in place, they're also slowed, and they are taking AoE damage over time, which is going to probably be able to break them. So the Demon Spew are broken. First time the Balance of Power does go in the favor of the glorious Skaven, as here in the backfield things are also going quite well. We're able to kill the Hail Cannon, the Mirror Guard are very, very low from the Mortis Engine effect, and Archaon is in a bit of a scary situation as well. We have Rat Ogres, we have the Ixchis Triads, we have Anti-Large, we have Armor Piercing. We pretty much have answers for everything back here. Granted, Archaon still might be able to win this fight with a little bit of magic support. Now, as far as this effort goes for Chaos, you can see here the Marauders are being forced back. One Manticore is broken and running, and the other Manticore is in decent shape. And the Marauder Horsemen at this point are trying to regroup. I still have some ammo left on my Warp Lightning Cannon, so we're going to be using the last of that ammo to shoot the Manticores and also to poke Archaon and try and bring that Archaon? I don't know why that was a tongue twister for me there. But nonetheless, Marauders are reforming ranks, so are the Skaven. The Mortars are back online, haven't really taken too much damage, but they are going to be shooting downtown, going after the Chaos Marauders, which have been forced back, running for the hills, and yeah, look at that. That's one tick right there. 4.3, so let's go ahead and watch this. 4.3, and I think it'll get him down to like 400 or 500 damage. Yeah, that is so damn good. Anyways, in the backfield, Archaon is pretty much able to clean me up. You can see here, though, it was worth it. We got the Hell Cannon. It's pretty much KO'd 100%. We summon some Plague Monks. We get the Ixchis Triads attacking Archaon. A Fireball coming in does go through the Plague Priest, which I believe does some damage. And now the Plague Priest is just running. I know that if I can get the Plague Priest, if I can run an open field here, we can pull Archaon into the kill box of the Skaven, into that Warp Lightning Cannon, and all will be well in the realm. So Chaos is re-rallying some of its forces. It's Marauder Horsemen pulling back here. I think that if Herbert Walker is able to get a jump on the Plague Priest, maybe we take that guy out. That could be a way for Archaon maybe to hard carry the game, because I am running really low on ammo. My Warp Lightning Cannon's almost out, and I don't have too many things on the battlefield aside from the Ogres that are really good against Archaon, and with a little bit of Manticore support, it could be, you know, decent for him. So Archaon's beelining here, but so are the Ixchis Triads. They're anti-large Guandos, certainly going to be doing some work against the Everchosen. But now we're able to get a screen up. You can see some Skaven Slaves coming in. We do also have some Ogres, which just finished Gorilla Pounding those Marauders over there. And those guys are going to be coming in. Archaon getting hit with the remaining ammo here of the Ikit Zap Zap Cannon. And it's looking pretty tough for Chaos. A lot of the Horsemen, of course, can put some hurt on Ikit, but Ikit is heavily armored. They have low AP, so I should be able to chase them. And what's really powerful about Ikit, of course, and Doom Wheels in general, is even if they can't catch you, they have lasers. They shoot lasers from the front. Rats shooting lasers only in Warhammer Fantasy. So we're on the hunt there. Archaon, in the meantime, a little bit surrounded. There are Ogres now, and the Manticore, of course, is going to probably rampage into some of my anti-large units. An Ice Burning Head going down there as well, with the Warp Lightning Cannon just pounding into these forces. The Warp Grinders able to snare them in place, and you can see the Manticore at 1400 HP. A lot of anti-large, a lot of AP here, and Ikit is coming back, and he's coming for blood. Granted, the Bounce Fire is kind of ebbing back a little bit, guys. Is Archaon going to be able to pull out some Witchcraft? My army is certainly a little bit beat up, but I do have some reserves in the back of Skaven Slaves who are able to proudly finish off a Feral Manticore. Imagine that one Skaven Slave going back to his burrow and being like, yes, it was I, the great rat, who was able to dispatch the Chaos Feral Manticore and send it back to the realm from whence it came. Nonetheless, though, Ikit rolling back through, the Manticore is broken. Archaon is being fully circle beaten here by the Rat Ogres, and that is going to be game 2 here in the series. Well played to Herbert Walker. And yeah, that's it, guys. So if I win the next game here in this best of 5, that will be the series. But again, if he does win it, it puts him back on the board and will be his path back into the series. So as far as this build goes, I think it was pretty good. I think the borders are just incredibly powerful. Warp Lightning Cannon deals with large threats. My only weakness here, I think, that I'd probably run into some problems if he did. One of the builds that Chaos uses quite often is Spawn Rush. So they'll have Spawn, they'll have Marauders, and like just bum rush you, right? I think my build might have had some problems against a Spawn Rush. Granted, I had Clan Rats with Spears, I had Ixchis Triads. Ogres can kind of fight them. It's not a great fight, but it's possible, and the Warp Lightning Cannon is there as well. So maybe, just maybe, I would switch the Warp Grinders and cut one Clan Rat and get like Giselles. But if you do that and go too wide, then you don't have enough to protect your back line, and it just gets crazy. So I don't know. I think the weakness of my build might be a Chaos Spawn Rush, but again, I think it also has teeth in fighting back and actually stopping the Spawn Rush. Maybe actually mixing in like a Skaven Assassin, who again has really good damage against light armor, could be really good against Spawn. But yeah, for the most part, I think the build was pretty strong and had the teeth to deal with most Chaos builds. And yeah, for his build, it was good. I think the Marauder Horseman can do a great job. I just think there was a couple situations in which the Marauder Horseman got caught in the back line. A little bit of a moment in which I think the micro focus was on Archaon and what was going on in the Hell Cannon, where they got caught was really rough for sure. They took a lot of damage. Some of them got terrified off the battlefield. There was a couple situations like that I think were pretty devastating for sure. But nonetheless, I certainly like it. It has really good gooning potential. You can snipe Skaven Lords. The Manticores can snipe as well. These guys are a really annoying thing to deal with, but they were moving in big groups of 3. I think had they been split into like, instead of 2 big groups of 3, a couple groups of 2, I think that would have been a little bit more stressful for me to try and control, and he could have had more angles of pressure because I only had so much to defend with. But very well played. That is game 2. And now, guys, we're going to be jumping on over to game 3 in this best of 5 grand finale showdown of the Quarantine Content Creators Tournament. Damn, that is like a tongue twister. I challenge you guys. Say that 3 times fast and let me know how it goes. All right, guys, we'll be right back. And now, my friends, we're back in game 3. It's going to be my dinos facing off against his greenskins. So as far as this matchup goes, he picked the greenskins and he banned Vampire Coast. And I believe the other ban was, I can't quite remember what the other ban was. But regardless, as far as like factions I'm really comfortable in tournaments with, Lizardmen are probably one of my least comfortable factions. Granted, I know dinos are very, very good against the greenskins here. And it's a mistake I've made in the past. You go into a tournament, you're playing against a player, and they leave a good matchup for you. But again, you're not good at that matchup, but you still go for it and you lose the game simply because you're not really a droid or skilled at that faction. And Lizards, I feel like, are a faction I'm trying to improve on. I think they have a couple cool matchups, and there are some proven builds. And I think this one is pretty decent. So let's go ahead and take a look. And again, if I can get this, guys, the series is over. But if I drop this game, we're going to keep going, and things are going to get quite hairy. Now here, guys, we do have a light salon, so we're going to be going for a good old Kroxigor smash rush. I'm sure Felcon would be proud, but it's going to be quad Kroxigors coming in with their spanking paddles. And one of the things about Kroxigors, they do have relatively low melee attack at 26, compensated, of course, by their bonus versus infantry, but with Light Salon, bonus time warp, you can pretty much just get a lawnmower. These guys will just crump most targets. Very, very powerful. So most of the time, what I've seen Dino players do against greenskins, and again, mind games are pretty important here, is they just spam dinos. It could be a Dread Saurian, it can be the Thunderous one, Mazdamundi on Zlak, and it's very, very tough for them to stop, right? Like the big monsters for greenskins can be quite punishing for sure. But again, I think a good player like my son Herbert Walker here is going to know that, and he's going to account for that. You can see here he does have Azag with Spirit Leech. He has double Giants in the back, and Giants are notoriously good against big dinos. He's got some missile play, a lot of skirmishing. His army's very far apart and spread out, which means that he's really planning on trying to stop big dino play. Because again, if he's spread out, the big dinos don't have the same shock damage. They don't get the big terror routes. So again, I kind of figured he would do something like this, so I brought a very wide build. I have Saurus Warriors, I have Skinks, I have Quad Kroxigor, and the back, I was expecting Giants as well, so I brought 2 Salamander Hunting Packs. Now these guys, even if he doesn't bring Giants, are pretty good against lightly armored troops, so let's say Biggins, or not so great against Blackworks, but against Biggins and Goblins and Nasty Skulkers and Archers, they have enough range to actually reach the Goblin Archers. I think that Salamander Hunting Packs against Greenskins certainly have some really good teeth. And even if he did come in with an Arachnarok Spider, yes, they're heavily armored, but the bonus versus large and the overall damage on these guys can bring down something like the Arachnarok Queen. On top of that, we do have a couple of Cold One Riders, so these aren't the anti-large ones. I wanted to have something to just be a little bit more aggressive, be able to send it to infantry and feel slightly more confident. So that's my whole army. Kroxigor smash, baby! Double Salamanders as well as the Slann Mage of Light. So for my son, he's got a couple of Goblin Wolf Chariots. Azag, like I said, very split up army here. He's got Goblins into the sunset. So again, really trying to avoid, in my opinion, giving value to the big dinos. He's got some Trolls as a roadblock, Nasty Skulkers as another roadblock in the back line, 2 Giants, and a lot of Skirmish Cav and Spider Riders. It's a very, very solid army. I actually like it quite a bit. I think had I come in with like a Dread Saurian or something like that, or let's say Zlak, he would have had the big Giants and the Trolls and plenty of missile harass to really drag those guys down. So let's get the show on the road, guys, and see if the Kroxigor smash can prevail over the Goblin and Giant Horde. So Doomdiver Catapult's going to be going in, trying to snipe my poor Slann, it looks like. And the Slann is taking cover amongst the Kroxigors. Slans are very tanky, though. I mean, not super tanky in terms of armor and melee defense, but they have a lot of HP. 5.6 is certainly no joke. But at this point, he came in with the Spirit Leech, and I was kind of like, all right, that's how it's going to go. He's going to be trying to Spirit Leech my Lord, so I just have to be careful and, try and stay amongst my troops to make it a little bit of a tough snipe. So my Salamanders do go in here and are able to force back Azag, sending him back to the realm from whence he came. Some of my Coldon Riders, of course, fending back the Chariots, just trying to keep what damage I can off the Slann. So I know that I need to push in, I need to pressure on those Giants, and I need to get to that Catapult, because that Catapult actually is doing some really good damage against my Slann. So the first frontline engagement shall be underway. Kroxigor's going to be spanking some Goblins. A very good engagement for me. Goblins have not the best melee defense. Kroxigor's bonus versus infantry, hit like trucks. These Gobbos are going to be breaking probably in a matter of seconds. They're already shaken. Now the rest of the frontline engagements are underway. I have to make a big effort to protect the Salamanders, because I know if my Salamanders go down here, I'm probably going to lose the game, because the Giants will be able to deal with Kroxigors and Saurus relatively effectively. And my answer against that is the Salamander hunting packs. So Goblins are broken, Skinks are surging in, trying to get on some of the Skulkers, and here we get a pretty good volley here. Salamanders are able to shoot into the Trolls, and they are paying the Troll toll. Skink cohorts and Kroxigors laying the base here on some of the Goblins, and the Wah is indeed resounded in this glacial lake. You guys are probably wondering why you're seeing so much Glacial Lake in the tournament. Because the players actually get to pick the maps they want to play on, and I always pick Glacial Lake. It's one of my favorite maps. So Azag does land down here trying to go after the Salamanders, but here we do get the Coldwind Riders going after him and doing a little bit of damage back, and it looks like the Goblins are being sent into melee. Maybe going to be trying to swarm in, go after the Coldwind Riders, but it looks like they do pull back, seeing that Azag has escaped. Now, many of the infantry fights are going very well. Saurus and Kroxigors pretty much just crumping everywhere they can. And here you can see the Salamander hunting packs are getting just juicy volleys, shooting into the raw hide here of this giant. It only has 30 armor. This is like the ideal hard counter. Now, giants are pretty slow as well, 39 speed. Salamander is very quick, 70 speed. Banishment going down as well is able to tear into some of the goblins back there. And the Saurus and Kroxigors are holding very, very well. We're also using some of the Kroxigors and some of the Coldwind Riders to try and make sure that the Salamander backline is safe. And you can see we're trying to make also a conscious effort not to overextend, because the Kroxigors were chasing goblins. Pull them back, tighten up. It's a build that's very defensive. We need to keep those Sallies fighting. And although it's kind of like not a pure defensive build, it's pretty aggressive in many ways, but keeping the Salamanders alive is the biggest thing, because otherwise those giants will run shop and be very, very scary. So Azag jumping down here, going after the Salamanders once again, but we do have the Coldwind Riders, we have the Kroxigors, and oh baby, it's paddling time. Now, yes, they're not anti-large, but that's a lot of AP, and Azag is not really very tanky. He only has 24 melee defense and 70 armor, so he is going to be taking a beating for sure. In the meantime, those Spirit Leeches and Doomdiver Catapults have been able to do some really big damage against my Slann, and he's getting a little bit low, and one of the Giants is just getting roasted here. 338, Salamander shooting in, doing so much damage. Sally's certainly quite happy. Saurus and Skinks pulling back from their overextension, trying to make sure to keep a very tight, fluid formation. And if you look overhead, you can see all these guys are definitely keeping a nice little circle formation. Salamanders are being attacked a little bit by some of the Spider Riders, but the Coldwind Knights, with the Barona's Time Warp, or Coldwind Riders, 55 melee attack, they are buzzsawing through Azag's health, and are also going to be able to take out these goblins very, very easily. So one giant is fallen. The Salamander hunting packs are able to take out a giant, and now they're going to be pushing in, going after the other giant. But my Slann is very, very low here, guys. My Slann has been gooning him the entire game with that Doomdiver Catapult and pretty much every Spirit Leech he has. And down goes the Toad! Falls off his toilet seat to return to his Star Chamber, perhaps to contemplate this defeat. So the Kroxigor is going to be pushing in, going after the Doomdiver Catapults now. There are some Skulkers back here, but my Skinks and Croxies should be able to get back there and cause some problems. And thankfully for me, the Salamanders are in good shape. 19 of 24 here, 20 of 24, and this big engagement here, in which he really committed heavily, went quite well. The Kroxigors and their armor and the Coldwind Riders with the Barona's Time Warp really working as a huge force multiplier. We're able to come in there and really polish off those Greenskin forces. No, so I'm leaderless though. He does have Azag. Azag, of course, took a lot of damage, but he is back up in the sky. He has a giant that's somewhat healthy as well. And now the Kroxigor is able to come back here and finally finish off this damn Doomdiver Catapult. That thing has been the bane of my existence this entire match. But the Spanking Paddles, especially that one goblin there, those guys must really hate that one. That one goblin in particular is very, very hated. So yeah, we're going to finish it off, maybe push it off the battlefield since he deployed it very, very close to the edge of the map here. However, the giant probably is going to be able to finish off Kroxigors. And you can see a single blow there kills the Kroxigor and also does terrify the unit. However, I felt pretty good against the giant. I have the Kroxigors, I have the Salamanders. The Trolls are also running, just being blasted with fire in the back. And of course, Trolls are large units and they're also weak to fire because they do regenerate. So the anti-large firepower here from the Salamander hunting pack's doing quite well. The Greenskins reforming ranks, able to kind of secure a pocket around the giant. Now, as far as what they have left, Goblin Wolf Chariots, we have Goblins here, we have another Wolf Chariot, but most of the Greenskin forces are Goblins, aside from the Giants. I mean, the Giants and Azag really were the heavy hitters. One Giant having gone down, the Goblins are pretty much running for the hills. And as far as my army goes, I am leaderless. However, I still do have a pretty good pocket of like heavy metal. 12 Kroxigors here, 12 Croxies here. I mean, these guys have really not taken a lot of damage this game, and they have enough mass to really beat down things like Chariots. So the Chariot's coming in for the Saurus. But yeah, the Kroxigors are going to have to speak to their managers, that's for sure. And you can see these Goblin Wolf Chariots are now being bitten on and nibbled and pancaked and all sorts of good metaphors, whatever you guys feel fits. Salamanders, in the meantime, shooting at Azag over here, able to take a couple hundred HP off him, which is quite nice. Granted, Azag, with a very good isolation, is able to jump over here and take out my Coldwind Riders, but Azag better run! Fireball's coming. The Salamander's able to blast him one last time as he does get back up in the sky. He's probably going to break here as the Coldwind Riders fly, or ride below. They're not flying. That'd be pretty OP if they could fly. Imagine if dinos had like a pterodon cav, like not a pterodon cav, but a cold one, a mutated cold one with pterodon wings, able to fly. That'd be some stuff. So Salamander's going after the giant, pushing up. The remnants of the Greenskin battle lines here, the Goblin Wolf Chariots and these other troops have been broken. And now the Salamanders are going to be shooting over here, really just putting the final beat down here on the giant. We're getting pretty close to army losses as Azag does break. He runs off the battlefield, and now it's pretty much the giant versus the world. The Kroxigors standing in formation, basically just letting the Salamanders do their thing. No reason to send these guys in and let them take the beating when the Salamanders are 100% capable of bringing down that giant, and that is going to be game. So well played. There you have it. I think a lot of that did come down to the build. I think his build was very focused on dealing with big dinos. My build just didn't have any good targets. I mean, you could see the one big dino, quote unquote dino I had in the Slan got nuked really, really quick. So clearly he had some tools for gooning out those type of characters. However, I think the Croxagors and the Sars just like annihilated the greenskin front lines. And even though they're just goblins, it still is gold, right? Like 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 2200 gold just like got destroyed. And I pretty much took like no losses in return in the frontline engagement. And the Giants also went down to the Sallies. We were able to protect those guys, which was quite nice. And really, it just came down to the Salamanders being free-flowing. Now, maybe had he been able to get the Spider Riders or get somehow onto those Salamanders, he probably would have had a pretty good chance of winning. Because the Croxagors, of course, won't do great against a Giant, but we were able to defend the Salamanders, and that was that. So there you have it, guys. That is the grand final, Game 3. That is going to be it. So we are victorious in the Content Creators Tournament. And also, I will be attacking on the bracket, so you guys can see everyone who played. Of course, in the first round of the tournament, I played against Dob Plays. Second round was Exploding Hamster. And the third round and finals here was against my son, Herbert Walker. So make sure to check those guys out if you haven't. There will be links in the comment section below. And my son, Herbert Walker, of course, one of the most prominent tournament hosts and competitive dudes out there. So make sure to check out his channel. There will be a link to his YouTube channel as well as his Twitch channel, which he's very active on both of those. So make sure to check him out. If you guys are looking for more tournament action, he hosts tournaments like nonstop, like way more than I do. So make sure to check him out. He's a great guy, great player, and really good sport for sure. And that's it, guys. So we'll be jumping over to take a look at the brackets here in a moment, so you guys can just kind of check out who played and what the results were. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and let me know if you guys want to see more tournament action. I always enjoy playing, and this one was offline, so it was quite nice. All right, guys, take care, and thanks for watching.